I'm Sarah. Welcome back to my channel where I talk about my journey to sustainable health and meaningful success. And thank you so much for all of the birthday wishes. I definitely had an awesome birthday, and I think it's a really good time in my life for new beginnings, like a lot of you mentioned, and I definitely am feeling that. So, if you are coming back, thank you so much for watching my previous videos, and today I'm here to sip some tea while I spill some tea about what it was really like to be in the Amway MLM business slash cult that I was in. And if you're new to my channel, welcome. Thank you so much for watching. I do suggest that you go back and watch my previous videos so that you have some context for this one. And if you want to subscribe, you're so welcome to. Like, I'm not trying to tell you how to live your life or anything, but I think it's a good decision. Anyway, so let's just jump right in to the tea about my business experience. So, as I previously mentioned, I was really excited about getting into business with the people that I was getting into business with. They intercepted me at a really dark time in my life. They made me feel so welcome, and for the first 6 months, they really love bombed me into the business. They edified me for everything that I did. They basically just made sure that I got as much recognition as possible, invited me to all of the events, even the exclusive events. My upline kind of held my hand through the first 6 months of business and just made me feel so loved and so much a part of this family. So I was so loyal to them, especially because of the things that they had done for me early on in business when I was just getting launched. So I was sold out. But as I got further into the business, well, and for a second, let me just say that I probably reached out to the majority of my network within that first 6 months because I was so excited to let everyone know, everybody that I knew, know about this awesome business experience that I've been having. And that was really genuine emotion because I was truly excited for that first 6 months. I sponsored one person, and I previously called her Marcy, even though that's not her name, but I sponsored Marcy when I was about 6 months into business, and that's when I started realizing that they really just want to sponsor one person until they get to the next person. So they'll exhaust that person's network, and then they'll go right down to the next person in line. They even had a term for that. They're building a taproot. They're finding the person in that line of sponsorship that's really going to grow the business, and then they will work that line of business. In business senses, that makes sense, but with how personally tied up I was with these people, it started feeling like I was really being rejected because I wasn't bringing money into their business, and it started feeling like they didn't love me as much, or I wasn't really as appreciated or accepted as I thought I was because I wasn't bringing people into the business. So if you watched my previous videos and heard me mention about how they tried to convince me that my family didn't unconditionally love me like they unconditionally loved me, that's when things got really confusing for me because I started feeling that separation when I wasn't bringing as much money into the business. And then I guess what I'll just talk about in this video is the 3 ways that they really had control in my life. The first was money, the second is how I spent my time, and the third is the association that I had, just my social life in general. So first, they did have a large amount of influence and control over my money. So one thing that they did was they have a standard on the team that you order 150 points of product, and 1 point or 1 PV equals $3 worth of product. So on the first of every month, my Ditto order was supposed to be $450 of product or more. And when I first started in business, I was a receptionist at a car dealership. I was not making a lot of money. And even just in the jobs that I've had and paying rent and all of that financial goal was never easy. But it was expected that I should do that, or that I would do that, because that was a team standard. They said that that was more important than paying rent or just basic living expenses, to the point where, with all of my finances going toward this business, I started donating plasma twice a week in order to pay for my business expenses. They also had a large amount of control over, or influence, I should say. Control means that they forced me to do anything, and they really didn't force me, but I felt like they would stop communicating, or I would kind of lose the connection that I had with them, or the ability to talk to them when I needed to talk to them, because they would slowly step back and pull back if I wasn't completely submitted to what they were trying to tell me to do. So with all of that, they had to approve my decision to buy a new car. When I needed to move and find an apartment, they had to approve on the apartment that I rented. They had to approve any time that I needed to switch jobs, or basically any big financial decision, even down to like getting a tattoo. They had to approve that, or say, well, that's a financial goal. When you reach such and such size of business, that's when you can get a tattoo. And even just down to like finishing school, like my education, I was 37 credits away from finishing my degree. And my parents were really wanting me to go back to school. And I went with the advice of my upline, who told me that I should not go back to college, and that my future really rests in the success of this business. And just in general, it was expected that I should pay for all of the conferences that happened quarterly, the travel to and from, the hotel, the tools that we used, all of the books and the resources. And then there was a subscription, a $90 a month subscription to their audio program system, kind of like Spotify for business owners, where you could just listen to their audio tapes for $90 a month. And so with all of those expenses, plus late night meetings at restaurants, but they did budgeting sessions, so they saw my bank statements, they knew my budget. And so if we went to these restaurants late at night and we're there until 1 or 2 in the morning, but if I ordered food and ordered anything, really, there would be judgment from that, because they knew that I didn't have enough money. But that was where that's where the meeting was, and everyone else was eating, and it was just really awkward and really controlling. And they basically had their eyes on pretty much every penny that I spent, and kept me accountable to making sure that I spent all of my money in business expenses. So then, next page of notes, they had requirements or different steps that they suggested for better business growth and personal growth. So basically, we were expected to read and listen to the audio tapes, but it was really discouraged to read anything outside of the books that they recommended. So for 2.5 years, I didn't read any book unless it was recommended to me by my upline. And as far as listening to audio tapes, if you have time to listen to music, you have time to listen to another audio tape. So it was really discouraged to listen to any music or outside podcast outside of the audio tapes that they provided. And then just in general, any sort of friends or hobbies that you had outside of the business was really discouraged. They said that once you replace your full-time income with the money that you're making from this business, then you'll have time for hobbies. But until that, you need to be dedicating every second of the day outside of work to this business and to this team. And so I pretty much, I mean, as I said in the last video, I pretty much cut out everything that I had going on in my life and isolated myself to just my job and business. So much. And then the last topic, which might sound a little bit more subtle, but that was what slowly ate me up inside and like really destroyed me, was their control and my association. And if you don't really know, or you're not very familiar with the structure of a multi-level marketing business or an MLM, you have your upline, you have your downline, and you have your crossline. So much like a family tree, if you are in your family tree, you have your parents and your grandparents and your daughters, or daughters and sons, or children. You have your children and your grandchildren. That's your upline and your downline. And any brothers, sisters, cousins, aunts, uncles, those are all like your crossline. They're not directly related to you in business, as far as like your line of sponsorship. So in this business, your upline is your God. Like, it is the be all end all. Like, anything that your upline says goes. If someone else who's successful in the business tells you to do something, if it didn't come from your upline, it probably wasn't good advice. Like, you only needed to take advice from your upline. And they put a lot of emphasis on chasing the heat or chasing your upline, making sure that you are everywhere your upline is, so that even in casual conversation, you might get that one nugget of wisdom that might change your business or change the way you approach your life, and that might completely propel you to the next level. So you have to chase your upline. So let me just gather myself with my notes. Obviously, I had to limit time with my friends and family. Basically, they said that this environment, this association is sufficient. And even when I left, and I'll talk about this in my next video, but even when I left, my upline was like, why would you want to cut out your time with your only positive association? Which was something that I was like, maybe that's something that you were trying to train me to believe, that you guys were the only people speaking life and positive things into my life, but it wasn't the case, clearly. And then basically, like, within the business, you're not allowed to date crossline. You can date your upline and you can date your downline, but if it's not directly in your business structure, you're not supposed to date them, because if a man and a woman who had different business lines got married, then the woman's business would move over to the man's business, leaving the woman's business line kind of in a lurch. And it just got really messy with finances, so we just weren't allowed to date people who were cross-line. I've never felt more like property. Just like, oh, yeah, okay, so if I marry somebody, then all of my, it's like a dowry or something. Ugh. Anyway, something that was huge in the culture of this business, and like I mentioned before, it was unnaturally positive. Like, you weren't supposed to let anybody know that anything negative was going on in your life. I mean, the negative circumstances or the negative things that you had to say was only supposed to be passed to your upline, not downline or crossline. So I had sponsored Marcy 6 months into the business, and for a year, we were in the car between 2 and 4 hours a week together. We got so close, but I wasn't allowed to tell her anything negative going on in my life. I mean, there was a stint that I was unemployed for like 3 months, and I wasn't allowed to tell her I was unemployed and struggling to make all of my payments. And it just really created pretty fake friendships, because you weren't actually able to be real with people. The only time that I heard of someone else's negative circumstance while they were going through that negative circumstance was a very close crossline to me. His mom passed away. And I heard that from my upline. The only reason why they told me that was they were using him as an example of why, if so-and-so's mom died and he's still able to make all of his financial payments and still able to do all of the reading and listening and all of the steps for success, then you have no excuse. So basically, that was really the only thing. I mean, it was really manipulative, but also my heart broke for that guy, because it was like he wasn't allowed to tell anybody. I mean, how lonely is that you're not able to tell anyone or confide or have comfort from anybody, even this group that you consider to be your family, but you're not allowed to talk about it because it's negative. So then in like conference settings also, all of the cars, like the carpooling situation was designated by the upline. The hotel situation was designated by the upline, and people were placed in particular cars or hotel rooms strategically so that new people coming into the business would be placed with more experienced business owners, so that the experienced business owners could basically censor the conversation to only be positive. And if something negative went down in the hotel room, then the experienced person was expected to report that to the upline. So cult-like. I mean, it was a cult. Anyway, we've already covered that. And basically you just had to keep your attitude in check at all times. There was one time that I came to a meeting and I was having a really tough time that day. And people were asking my upline. They weren't asking me because they knew that they weren't allowed to ask me, but they asked my upline if I was okay. And I definitely heard that from my upline later. They were like, you are not allowed to let people know that you're going through a hard time. Like, if you need to work something out, you need to gather yourself, work it out, and come into this association with a good attitude. So that was something I got kind of chewed out for because of that. Different conversation topics that I didn't really even know was inappropriate. Like, I was talking to this guy about eczema because he also had eczema. And if you're not really sure what eczema is, it's basically a skin disorder that just makes you itch like crazy, and it makes you kind of break out. And I was experiencing really bad eczema one conference, and I was scratching, and the guy that I was talking to was like, I have that too, you just have to not scratch it. I mean, it was just a basic medical kind of conversation. And someone in my upline told my upline Platinum that I was talking to this guy about eczema, and I was corrected later in a private conversation saying that I wasn't supposed to talk about that kind of stuff to guys because you don't know what guys are thinking. I'm sorry if you find that sexy, ew, but whatever. And another time that I was invited to a lunch that apparently not everyone in my upline was invited to. I asked someone friendly, like, I was like, oh, am I going to see you at this lunch? And apparently she wasn't invited, and she told my upline. And basically my upline called me after that meeting and was like, you need to figure out, like, you need to control what you, like, think about what you're saying before you say it. Like, run it through a brain cell. Seriously, tolerating this kind of stuff is so out of character for me, which is why even just recording this video, it's like, man, I was so delusional. Anyway, there were particular things in the meetings that it was very, like, important to have the correct etiquette. For instance, men and women can shake hands during the first portion of the meeting where it's an info session and there are guests checking out the business structure. So it's more professional to shake hands. So you're allowed to shake hands. You're not allowed to talk to any guests that aren't your guests, because you don't know how much information the guests have been given prior to the meeting. So you're not allowed to talk to anybody else's guests in case you give them information that they weren't supposed to have yet. Um, and then once it broke into the second part of the meeting where it's just a training for already launched business owners, then people get more excited. They start breaking out their products because we didn't use our products in the first portion of the meeting where there were guests, because we didn't want to come across as MLM people who sell products. So we weren't allowed to use our products or drink any like energy drinks from the business or anything like that. But as soon as the training broke out, then we broke those things out and we were like high-fiving people. Actually, you were required to high-five guys. Like, as a woman, it was fine if I shook someone's hand in the first part of the meeting because that's professional. But then as soon as it broke into the second part of the meeting, shaking hands was too intimate and I was supposed to only high-five guys. So side hugs were like unheard of. So that's how strict the conduct was monitored. And then when you go to conference, you wait in line for hours and hours before the doors even open because you're chasing the heat, and it's important that you get there. It's the front row mentality that you're expected to have. And if they have like a late night meeting with all of the upper people in business, like the emeralds and platinums and rubies and diamonds, and as someone who just got started in business or someone who hasn't really grown their business, if you didn't qualify for those meetings, you don't just go back to your hotel room. You're expected to wait outside of those meetings. And some people would even like press their ears against the door to try to hear what's going on in the meetings, because that's their version of chasing the heat. I mean, that's what they considered going the extra mile. So we would sit in these hotel hallways for hours on end until like 3:00 in the morning, and then have to sit through this conference where they had 6 hours of conversation, like of speakers, one right after another. And it was really looked down on if you got up throughout the conference, even to go to the bathroom or get a snack. Like, people packed their own snacks. They had their products. You weren't allowed to use other products outside of the business. Like, if you broke out a hand lotion that wasn't G&H hand lotion, someone would throw that away from you for you and get you a G&H hand lotion. Like, it didn't matter if you preferred a different product over the product that this business sold. You were going to use those products that weekend, and you should not be caught using any outside products. And then basically, outside of just all of the rules that I have already explained, it's very limited with the amount of contact you can have with your cross-line friends outside of the business meetings. I wasn't allowed to exchange any contact information with anyone who was cross-line to me, and we were never allowed to hang out outside of actually business sanctioned meetings. So when I quit the Amway business, all of my friends, the people that I considered closest to me, were not allowed to contact me. Actually, they really couldn't contact me because they don't have my social media, because using social media is looked down on anyway. They don't have my phone number. And we've never hung out outside of those meetings. So once I cut it off with Amway, I cut it off with all of my close crossline friends. And when I say close crossline friends, I only say that they were close because that was really what I considered friendship to be like. Now that I'm out of the Amway business, I'm really grateful for the friends that I have and all of the people that have reached out to me since starting my YouTube channel too, because I'm actually able to be genuine and honest with people about where I'm at. I think that's probably one of the biggest reasons why I started this YouTube channel, is because for 2.5 years, I wasn't allowed to be honest about the fact that I was struggling with so many things. And so now I'm on this journey of healing, but it's not perfect all the time. And I'm actually really grateful to be able to tell you that it's not perfect all the time, and that I am working through a lot of things. My finances are getting so much better now that I'm not spending so much money on the Amway business, but I would try to fake it till I made it. And basically after a budget session, I mean, my upline budgeted my income down to the last $30. I only had $30 a month of discretionary spending. So I'm excited to film the next video, which is how I quit, because of all of these rules and all of the things that I thought were normal, but now I'm finding out that it's so not normal. It took a lot to get me out of the Amway business, and I'm excited to share that with you. So subscribe if you want to, and comment down below, like my video, and just, be a part of the community. And if you're a hot mess like me, just join me because we're not perfect, and it's so okay that nothing in our lives are perfect, and we're all just a work in progress. So anyway, I love you all, and I hope you have a fabulous time of your life, that you never felt this way before. And I swear, it's the truth. And I owe it all to you. I don't know where that came from. Wow. Okay, anyway. Okay. Bye.